Big Fly.
Multimedia.
Hey everybody, how you doing today? Hope you're doing well. A little bit of a break from doing videos over the Christmas holiday, but it's the day after Christmas in the evening and I'm done visiting family, so I thought I'd do a rant. I've never done a rant before, but here it goes. My rant is about the statement that fish keepers often make that the bigger your tank, the easier it is to take care of. And I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I think where that comes from is I think people, when they start out in fish keeping, everybody starts out with a small tank and everybody makes the same mistakes. They put too many fish in it, they overfeed, and they don't do enough water changes, which results in the loss of fish. Even if their tanks are cycled, they don't do it right. They overfeed, they stock them too heavily, and they don't do enough water changes. With that being said, people start out with a small tank, overstocked, they move everything into a larger tank. They do have less problems because the volume of water does allow for some buffering of stupidity, basically. If they have a habit of overstocking and overfeeding, now they got a bigger tank, they can put more different types of fish in, they can experiment. It's not going to necessarily change as fast because of the volume of water. However, that doesn't mean it's making that larger fish tank easier to keep. That just means you're less likely to lose fish because of an ammonia spike, basically. But if you're doing it wrong, that can still happen regardless of the size of the tank. So my rant is, I think we need to stop telling people, particularly new aquarists, that, if you're having problems with the small tank, get a bigger tank. They're easier to take care of, because that is not true. I have a 125 gallon tank here. That takes a hell of a lot more work than taking care of one of the 10 gallons that I have over on the wall. I can do a water change in a 10 gallon in about a minute and a half. Can't do that on a 125 gallon tank. A lot more work, a lot more time consuming. Cleaning the glass in itself is a monumental task at times if I get an algae bloom in there. I do keep algae eater in my 125 and he does a fantastic job of keeping the glass and the decorations clean. But 10 gallon tank can get covered in algae and I can wipe it out and remove the algae manually in a couple of minutes. Can't do that with a larger tank. Now, what I think we need to be preaching to people that are new with the hobby is stock your tank to a capacity that you're able to care for. And what that means is, can you afford the chemicals required for dechlorination when you do water changes? Do you have the patience to do water changes frequently enough to keep up with the nitrate cycle in your aquarium? That means, do you understand the husbandry involved in keeping fish? You get a 10 gallon tank and you get a 2-inch Oscar. That fish can outgrow the 10 gallon tank in months. We need to start preaching good animal husbandry to aquarists. We need to start helping people that don't understand that everything you put into your aquarium affects the environment inside the aquarium, whether it be your water, your dechlorinator, your fish, your plants, your decor, your hands. If you slather yourself up with lotion in the winter because your hands are dry and immediately walk over to your tank and stick your hands in there, guess what's going to come off your hands into the water and potentially cause problems, right? Everything that goes in the tank contributes to the health of the environment inside of it. So you got to recognize that and understand the problems surrounding that. We got to stop. We got to stop telling people that big tanks are easier. That's the wrong message. I've been keeping fish in 10 gallon tanks for a long time. I started out with a 38 gallon tank and I overstocked it. I overfed it. I lost fish. It didn't cycle right. And And after many trips to my local fish store, they explained everything to me in detail as I went. And I actually asked them, I said, why didn't you tell me this stuff right away? And they said, people just don't listen. They just want to buy tanks, set them up, put a bunch of fish in there, and have them be pretty. The lady said, well, what would you have told me if I told you that, you take the fish tank home and set it up, but don't put anything in it for a month? I said, well, I probably wouldn't have bought the tank. Well, there you go. They're there to get people into the hobby and help them along. Great people. They did help me out, help me with the cycle. They actually replaced the fish that I lost because they were very inexpensive. I think at the time when I first got it, I put some gouramis and zebra danios and a clawed frog and miscellaneous common fish went into it. But I'll tell you that 38-gallon tank is easier to take care of than the 125. If you've ever had a large aquarium have a problem, you will quickly understand how troublesome it can be, how expensive it can be. The 125 that I just set back up, I set this back up at the end of August, and I cycled the tank with a couple of sacrificial catfish, lost those, kept it running, went in to get African cichlids, bought a bunch of those and threw them in there, and I bought a bunch of clown loaches. The clown loaches brought with them some type of gill parasite. I lost one of the African cichlids, and then I was forced to deal with 125 gallons of water that was full of parasites. The life cycle of parasites is complicated, especially in larger aquariums, because they can get down into the gravel. There's such a high volume of water to treat. I ended up treating the tank for 14 days with Paragard, and it cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $45 to $60 roughly to treat it. Whereas if I would have had tanks set up to quarantine fish when I brought in, I could have thrown them in a 10-gallon. I could have treated that for a fraction of the cost of treating a very large tank. So what makes a tank easy to keep is not the size. What makes a tank easy to keep is the Aquarius knowledge of what they can and can't do. New people in fish keeping, you can read all you want about it, but until you get a tank set up and you're experiencing the ups and downs of fish keeping and some of the problems that you're going to run into, you can't do the aquarium justice. You have to learn through trial and error, which is absolutely the right thing to do and the best way to do. What we don't need to do is tell people, hey, that 10 gallons giving you problems, get a 55, it's going to be easier, when in actuality it's not. The tank's not the problem, it's a knowledge of the Aquarius. So let's try to work together in the fish keeping community. Let's try to tell these new Aquarius the truth that you need to learn how to manage your tank. You need to understand the cycle. You need to buy a test kit. I know it's an additional cost, but one of the most important things to do when you're new to fish keeping is to have the test kit. You need to understand that you're going to develop bacteria that's going to convert ammonia to nitrite, and that's going to happen fairly quickly. The next step of converting it from nitrite to nitrate takes a heck of a lot longer. People need to know and understand that stuff. Do you have a thermometer in your tank? Are your fish getting ick because you don't have a heater in that? Do you understand the temperature requirements of the fish that you're keeping? Are the fish that you're keeping in your little tank compatible for pH, temperature, hardness, total dissolved solids, all of that stuff that people don't realize. Having a bigger tank doesn't solve bad water chemistry for the inhabitants. If you're running a planted tank, did you just buy a bunch of tissue cultured plants that you threw in there and they're all decaying because you didn't fertilize and you don't have the correct lighting? What we need to do to advance the hobby and grow the hobby, when we bring people in, we need to be honest with them. We need to explain what they need to do to deal with the problems that they're having in their little aquariums. and stop telling them to get a bigger tank. That's just a bullshit reason. That's helping no one. Well, that's my rant. I don't know if I'll do another one of these. I might. But anyway, I hope everybody had a great holiday. I'm looking forward to 2017 coming. The new year is coming. Me and the family will be spending New Year's Eve at home as we always do, enjoying each other's company and eating some good food. But anyway, everybody, good luck in the new year. I may do some videos this week, may not. Kind of busy with work, but we'll see what we can do. So everybody, take care. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your fish. Peace.